whatever, so that I could free up my time and just in an effort to also discuss the um, 7 out of 12, which was, if you've been following along, I've been kind of trying to break up the last, I would say, 15 years of my life into like a 12-piece kind of explanation so that I can neatly organize and catalog after doing a transcription on the narrative, so ChatGPT can listen with the audio and put it all into writing for me, and then I can go through that transcript and edit it, and then I can make these easier to understand, even if they're like cartoon explanations, whatever, so that I could free up my time and just in an effort to defend my reputation, my name, my business, for myself and for my children. I think it's very important that all of the actual facts be, documented. And when AI takes over the world, at the very least, if the human beings aren't willing to slow down and hear what I'm saying, the AI will know. So that's why I continue to follow up with this. So this is 7 out of 12, and where I left off, Xavier, I'm going to give the first of 6 explanations of our relationship and how we met. So do you want to be a part of that conversation? I'm live. Yeah, I was discussing the details of the bludgeoning, of which I never received a penny of restitution, nor was I permitted to go to the sentencing in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so just listen, and if you'd like to add in, you can add in. So Xavier and I met after I explained this in the last video. An undercover officer named Juan, who identified himself as an undercover officer with both a badge as well as a vehicle with law enforcement license plates on it, brought me to the Walgreens on Ontario and Clark. It was actually the day after he originally brought me there that he had his son, Louis, was the name they gave me, which is also my son's name, just to make things more confusing. But he had him drop me off there the following day after going there with him. The reason that intersection is significant is just to document that that's where I met Xavier. When he had his son drop me off there, the day was scheduled that we were supposed to have a normal day. Mind you, he was a safe house in a series of about 10 safe houses that I was in from the time that this began with Dylan in 2020. From the time I was unlawfully displaced from my own home at 2037 West Roscoe, Chicago, Illinois 60618. So he was probably the 10th safe house. There was no sex. There was no working as an escort. There wasn't even sexy content. The last time I had any involvement with law enforcement and doing deals or being forced and extorted to participate in God knows what, collecting electronic this or that was 2019. So 2020 comes along and, Dylan throws me out and I'm going from safe house to safe house, and I know that I'm not safe during this time, but they keep on saying that I'm safe and everything's okay and not to worry and blah, blah, blah. And trusting in that is ultimately what led to me being sexually assaulted. Like, whatever, back on track. So Xavier approaches me. Babe, do you remember where we met? And do you remember, what was I doing there? No, I was just sitting there. I was literally just sitting there with all of my belongings. I wasn't telling you someone was going to pick me up. I was literally telling anyone who would listen that I had been unlawfully thrown out of my home, that I had been seeking shelter assistance for the last several years, that I was being directly denied my human right to shelter, that I was scared, that I needed help, blah, blah, blah. I had also been telling YouTube, Insta, and Facebook everything that had been taking place since that whole saga began. So Xavier walks up to me wearing Levi's jeans made for a man, Nike Freeze or Nike, those like really light, like foam running shoes, a Levi's jean jacket, and like an oversized hoodie. He's driving a Zumo electric bike, and he has a joint, and he says that he wants to smoke. And do I mind if he smokes right there? And I say, no, no worries. And we start talking, and in that original conversation outside of the Walgreens, he shared with me that his brother, Carlos Montoya, works for the district attorney's office for the state of Illinois. That he is aware of my case and my situation, that he and his family are going to help me, and that he's going to bring me to a safe house. I did not believe him when he said he was going to bring me to a safe house in the Gold Coast, but I kind of also did believe him because that's the way it had been working. I was being dropped off after my car got stolen. I was literally being picked up and dropped off by one undercover person to the next. Or like dropped off in a location and told stay here until someone comes to get you. And then they'd come like 2 or 3 days later. So Xavier, number one, expresses to me that his brother is the DA and that they're gonna help me. And so now I trust him. But I didn't trust him much because of the sexual assaults and other things that had already taken place that I was like not okay with and that I was still not healed from. P.S. Anytime I talk to you guys, I look like shit because I am never like done with my makeup because I always try to do my documenting ASAP. And then as soon as my makeup's done, I'm on the meter and working. So in real life, I do wear makeup every day mostly. But back to Xavier and I, Xavier was able to communicate effectively and hold his own. There were absolutely zero signs or symptoms of any sort of mental health struggle from him or from myself when I met him. I did believe what he said to be true with regards to his brother being the district attorney because he told me that he would take me to the safe house, and when he told me so, I said, help me move my belongings from this Walgreens to the church across the street from Whole Foods. You said that's the halfway point between here and your dad's, and we'll spend the night there at the church. It was getting late, like 7, 8 p.m. I said, we'll spend the night right there on the steps of the church, and if when I wake up, none of my belongings have been stolen or gone missing, and you're still there, then I'll trust you enough to go with you to this. Okay, and he stayed with me the entire night. And I woke up in the morning, he had only drank a bottle of wine that I had in my purse and smoked my vape. But my money was still there, my clothes, my everything else was still there. And I had a lot of stuff. I had production equipment, lighting, yoga mats, clothing, expensive clothing too. Like I said, naked wardrobe outfits, my laptop, everything was still there. So we moved it to the Gold Coast safe house, and we stayed there for about 2 months. And this was, do you remember what year, babe? Was it 2022 or 2023? Babe, Xavier,
Yeah.
do you remember, are you fucking having narcolepsy or something? Like you're just randomly dozing off. You're on the live and I'm trying to document what year was it that we met. So 2021 is when, or 2020 is when I was unlawfully forced out of my home at 2037 West Roscoe. I spent the first year and a half all alone. And then once the Cadillac was stolen, that was 2021. It was 2022 when you and I met, right? August of 2022? Yeah. So it was July or August of 2022 that Xavier and I met. And it was under those conditions that his brother was the DA and was going to help me with this case. And it is 2026, and to this day, I have not received any direct assistance or even an acknowledgement of what I've experienced from the state of Illinois or the district attorney's office. And my son, who was born while being subjected to these abuses, housing adversity, and being blatantly denied shelter assistance, my son Weston, has been in the DCFS custody since he was 3 days old. They tell me that he goes with Xavier's mother as the foster parent, and that he was going to be able to come home with me immediately, or at the very least that unsupervised visits would begin immediately. And I've still, almost 2 years later, not had a single unsupervised visit. Mind you, I won primary joint custody of my 3 older kids who lived with me on a full-time basis in 2018. A year later, when Dylan came home from prison, that's when we all got separated. And he started fraudulently using my aunt's addresses, my old addresses, to receive steroids, to do all sorts of stuff. So there's a street in Chicago, it's called Kingsbury. And they say that kings, who are people who don't trick on other people to get ahead. So like when you start getting cornered systemically to either turn state's witness or turn state's evidence or, you know, whatever, that these kings will bury in so much adversity, facts, lies, scramblings, running, other, you know, occurrences of crime, that the originally sought after information becomes like, who even fucking cares about that now, because it's been buried in so much bullshit. My case has been subjected to that on a number of occasions. It's a play. So we're in 2026. I have been subjected to so much: the bludgeoning, getting jumped and stabbed, being raped twice, having all of my belongings stolen from me 3 or 4 times, being denied assistance by the Federal Bureau of Investigations as well as local law enforcement, being helped by local law enforcement, being hindered by the state's attorney's office, being helped by the state's attorney's office. Nothing has been consistent enough to produce an outcome that's been, you know, logistically sound for practically, you know, growing a business and continuing my life in a positive direction. It's all just been like a bunch of distractions and hindrances.
Shush.
And the original judge, I want to mention, who heard the case, when we went, you know, in front of a judge after Weston was taken at 3 days old, that judge said that as long as, pending I could prove that I did have medical treatment during my pregnancy and that my doctor would testify that I don't have a mental health diagnosis that would disqualify me from parenting, that Weston would be home immediately. It's been 2 years, and my doctor did get on the stand. Dr. Haresh Saulani did get on the stand. He gave diagnosis of PTSD and ADHD. He gave that he has met me with my other 3 children, that he knows for, you know, firsthand that I won primary custody of my other 3 children, and that I'm a great mother. And despite all of that, they still have not even given us so much as an unsupervised visit with Weston. I've not missed a single visit. I show up every single visit with food, clothes, a nail clipper, lotion. You know, I take care of his needs. I feed him. I love him as much as, you know, they permit me to for those 2 hours, hugging on him and playing games and watching cartoons and listening to music and dancing and learning and, you know, eating. And then I leave that office, and whether he is crying or smiling, there is not a single fucking thing that I can do about it. Nothing. And I'm so fucking disgusted with the way that this government has allowed this to go on, that the only way my rational mind can make sense of any of this is to say our government must have been taken over by domestic or foreign terrorism. Because if our government wasn't taken over or being controlled by some sort of opposition, there's no way in hell that something like this would have been permitted. It's been 6 years. 6 years. You can go back to the comments, and whether I turn comments off or on, YouTube always has access to the comments that people have made in the past. They will never go away. And you could read the responses that people have been giving me, the threats people were making against me openly for the last, I don't even know, 6-7 years. It's all there. And then there are Instagrams and Facebook and YouTubes that have been ManyVids accounts, and, you know, just there's too many websites that have been used to document all of that's been going on for anyone to deny that it's been going on. So where the fuck are we with this? When is this going to be resolved? When does my baby get to come home? And when do I get to, you know, live in a space physically, mentally, psychologically, financially, where I'm not being subjected to victimizing behavior all the time? I don't want to be anyone's victim. Xavier and I basically decided, you know, that when I met him, that we were going to be allies to each other, but I communicated to him that I was not interested in a sexual relationship behind. I, at that time, had been celibate for nearly 2 years. I had slept with no one consensually and of my own free will since Dylan and I broke up. And with the exception of Xavier, that's still the case for today. Every single person that I slept with since Dylan and I broke up, I was either sexually assaulted by, raped by, or they basically would offer me shelter after days of not having anywhere to go and no rest and no food, and basically say either you're gonna allow me to fuck you or you're gonna get the fuck out and go back outside in the street. And when my body and mind were too weak, I would just lay there. I have not had sex with anyone consensually, not a single person other than Xavier. And even that would have been completely different if the circumstances were different. I mean, completely different. And I need advocacy now. This is 6 years unanswered. No one has discussed anything with me directly about any of this, and anytime that they do, it always goes around in that circle of the classic narrative that Heather must have something wrong with her mental health. So, not wanting to be bludgeoned and stabbed, not wanting to be unlawfully separated from my infant child or my other children, that qualifies as a mental health disorder? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. On top of that, the people who are responsible or authoritatively for being with my child when I'm not around right now are dumber and really, really a lot worse with regards to professionalism than I am. And by dumber, I don't mean like, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean like they know less about things that matter than me. They're more ignorant, we'll say, than I am. And these are people who are being permitted to be with my child in my absence when I'm not around, but I'm not even allowed to be with my child in the absence of the DCFS professionals. So Xavier and I did not have a sexual or romantic relationship for the first approximately 6 to 8 weeks that we were together every day. It was under the guise of I bought what he was selling with regards to his brother, the DA, wanting to pick up my case and help me and prevent me from being sexually assaulted ever again. And I thought that that's what he was there for. And that's where I'll leave it for today. I have to go over the next 2 years with my notes and my belongings with me because there are a lot of details about where we went, why, and what was the catalyst to push us, sometimes quite literally with no other option, into the situations that resulted subsequent to our meeting. And to, brought us to where we are today. But I want to thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I know this has been so much fucking information, and I know that that's intentional. There are a lot of people that do not want people to know what is really going on with us for one reason or the other, and a lot of them, most of them, are nefarious reasons, malicious reasons, because they are benefiting from people not knowing what's going on. There are people who have directly intercepted donations that were meant for my family and I and reallocated them to causes that I did not consent to, leaving my family and I in a space of very low funding. And then there are also sponsors that follow through and through, keep their word all the time that I've been able to rely on for this entire time. And it seems like they have probably other responsibilities, and so that ebbs and flows. And not to mention the fact that the external control and harassment with regards to this case has been absolutely obscene. The amount of it is just undescribable. In addition to that, they're taking really extenuating circumstances to kind of keep my message on the low. They have taken it as far as to put us into technological boxes where we have been prohibited and inhibited communication with people that normally would be allies and excellent resources for us. Lastly, they've been cooking audio, which means that they have gathered sound bites in the voices of the people around me the most, that I most commonly, am in cahoots with, whether it's my kids, my mom, my friends. And they've gathered sound bites on all these people, and they're creating cooking audio, meaning they're creating a narrative that would result in more funding for one of their causes, and then they're having my friends and family sound bites so that it sounds like to some other third party that they're trying to sell this cause on, like my family and I are communicating, and just communicating is not a problem. It's the narrative that they are running. A lot of times there have been a lot of prejudice and racist interventions, meaning there's been a lot of game playing. So if a sponsor is a black guy and he wants to give $4,000 to my cause to help me get Christmas gifts for my kids, and there's a black girl in between that black guy and the black girl and me receiving money, they will, one of the channels of chatter is what I call it, either communication that's harassment in person, online, through messages, emails, they will begin to make it about race. Oh, so you're going to help a white girl but not a black girl, huh? It will literally lay into my sponsor. I mean, fucking extort him, call him names, dig into his past, present, or future, and make him feel like shit about himself. Anything other than put a gun in his mouth and say, give me the money, not her. Let's put it that way. And hey, they could have done that too. I really don't know. But there has been so much money that has been designated for the solutions with regards to this situation and rehabilitating my family. And it's been intercepted, you know, so I'll let you guys go for now. I am on the expressway heading back downtown so that I could get started with work. I need to fix my eyebrows and put on a little bit of makeup. I hope you all have a fabulous holiday season. I definitely need the sponsors to step in. I don't know the best way to even ask for donations without putting sponsors at risk in 2026. If there is some sort of system in place, I know previously there have been people who have been helping us with meals, people who have been donating cash, people who have been offering to help with transportation on a lot of these issues. So if you guys are, you know, still currently around and you're aware of the disconnect of what could have possibly been causing these huge issues, number one, Xavier's phone has not been replaced. It's been going on 7 months that Xavier hasn't had a phone line. So if you guys could please resolve that so I could get back to driving regular Uber, that'd be great. And number two, it's been 6 years this January since I had my own home and my children lived with me. I don't engage in any sort of illicit activities, and I would like to have a stable home and enough money in the bank to cover my expenses for a month. I came up with a literal play-by-play of how I would be okay, how I would buy a house, save $500 a month. I even made a budget, and I only need to stick to that budget. I only need to make $159.72 minimum each day, and I could have $500 in the savings account each day. But still, to this day, no one has even gone over the issues with the intentional underdrafting of my PNC as well as my Wintrust accounts. So if whoever was around when I was getting fucked over about 6 months ago could come back and take a look at the forensics on that bank account and correct those issues, that'd be great. Also, if someone could please help us out, Xavier and I both need new phone lines and phones. And someone without my permission, knowledge, or consent took my real phone, my iPhone 12 Pro, the one that has the majority of the information and accounts that I can't, you know, access from another device on it, and shattered it while I was asleep. So I went to sleep and it was fine, completely intact, and I woke up and it was like this. So I treat my belongings with care and respect, and I don't have the money to just freely replace my stuff. I need a budget for Christmas gifts. I haven't had my eyebrows done. My Botox is overdue. There's a lot of shit that I have going on in my life. Yes, the way that you look definitely contributes to your ability to get paid. So yes, I need the sponsors to come back in and step up, and I need you to follow through and make sure that I'm receiving the resources that are being specifically designated for my family and my case. I hope you guys have a great day. When we pick up on part 8 out of 12, we'll discuss what happened after Xavier and I left his father's home, the safe house in the Gold Coast, and where we went from there.